Good morning, everyone. This is the Abundance Book Club, and we are talking about the audacity to be queen for the month of December. Today, specifically, we're talking about designing our mindset. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Terry. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Tabitha. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. So Terry is my nutrition coach. She is fabulous, and she joins me once a week for these conversations. And what a perfect topic for you and me to have together about mindset, and not just mindset, but designing our mindset. And I really love that because I remember at a very young age watching other women, and I was such a dorky kid. Like I was just such a dorky kid, and it's all perfect. It's, I still love the dork side of me. But there was always this side of me that knew like, oh, like if she can do that, I can do that. Like there wasn't jealousy comes up for sure. It's something that I know we all deal with, but there was a lot of, instead of like seeing something someone was doing or a way that they were presenting, instead of seeing it as something I couldn't do, it was like, oh, let me take that little piece. I like that. And it allowed me to design a lot of what I chose. I wouldn't say so much around mindset when I was younger. That came a lot older, but just, I like that shirt, right? I like that hairstyle, whatever it was like, oh, I can take pieces of that. And I know that those little things within us, the things that our heart calls us to, are actually parts of us that aren't manifesting yet, that aren't showing up yet, and probably because of conditioning, but they are parts of us, or we wouldn't want them. And so it's really important for us to allow ourselves to choose the pieces that are for us and design the life that we want. And when we design our mindset, when we design how we choose to think, we are designing our life. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
I love that so much. Okay, so the thought of looking at someone, I love those shoes, I love her hair, I love that jacket. I invite everybody to give themselves permission just to lean into that and not judge it. And trust that, just like you said, trust that whatever you were attracted to is a part of something you're designing as well. When it reminded me when you were talking that when I was growing up, I was very shy and very quiet, and that didn't exist for me. I remember loving horses, and I remember I don't ever remember the designing part, or like this, like that, like this, like this. So it took me a very, very, very long time. I just knew that the things that I loved, that I was passionate about, horses, and I was driven to, for some reason, I don't know, I was driven to perform at some level.
Well, and coming back to the design piece, right? I think that I hear a lot of people say, well, that's just not me. That's just not how I am. Now, if that term is being used because, that's really not what someone wants, that's fine and it's great. But if we're using it as a way to say, I can't have that, I can't choose that, I can't be that, I can't show up that way. Like you just said, you're really shy, and yet here we are live on YouTube, right? I know that I had a form of social anxiety that I was never diagnosed with. That's how shy that I was. It was painful, like very painfully shy. And same thing, here we are, right? So at some point we chose and developed that's out of us, right? And so, the invitation is whatever it is that an individual might want, to pause and notice, and not to say, oh, that's just not me, but to go, if I have the desire within me, it must be me. It must be in there if I want it.
Right. And I think that's even more developed than where I was going with that. It's like, I didn't even realize I had a choice. It never, ever occurred to me. I thought that this is it. this is what I get, so let me make the best out of it, which is not a bad thing. It develops a lot of other things. What I do a lot in my coaching, the life coaching part of my business, is that teaching women that they have a choice. Because it's blatant. I didn't think I had a choice. So as I let the wind and the circumstances drive me through life, and I know that a lot of women can relate to this, so I'm speaking into that. You're driven, the circumstances bumper you here and there, and then it didn't work, and I kept bumping up to things. So creating the opportunity of what it looked like to choose, to powerfully choose, and that's a fun thing to bring into the space of designing your life.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, the power of choice. And then the power of choosing to practice, right? I mean, as an example of something that I went through from the time of being socially, like severe anxiety around social stuff to here. I mean, I would get up in front of groups and sing because I loved singing so much. And the muscles in my face would spasm. Like I was so nervous that the muscles would spasm and my face would just be jumping all over the place, and I would just keep going, and it was painful and it was humiliating, and I did it anyway, right? So like whatever it is that we're choosing, right, it's so much easier to just go, I love that shirt, I'm going to go buy that shirt, right? That's kind of the simples. But then the choosing to put ourselves out there, choosing to be really uncomfortable, and that's really where a lot of the mindset, designing the mindset comes from, is choosing to step into the challenging, the uncomfortable, the things that we think that we could never do.
I know. I love that so much. Designing the mindset. So the things that we love and the things that we're afraid of, do it afraid. And it gets easier and easier. And it is a mindset to do things afraid, do things anyway, if you have the desire and the urge. So creating the decision, leaning into the commitment of doing something even though you're afraid. I can't stress that enough. I love the face twitching.
Well, let's talk about this afraid piece, right? Because you hear people say all the time, there's not a tiger chasing you, there's no reason to be afraid. Okay, the fear is real. The fear is real, and we get to get underneath of it. And I love the work that you do because it really dives into more of that neural pathway, what's causing it, what created it in the first place, and healing it. And then, that other piece you're talking about is doing it afraid, right? So that even when we feel the fear, we step into it anyway. What is our fear about? Typically, I'll speak for me, and I'd love to know, what other fears come up? What are the ones that I'm not thinking of? What are the fears? So whether you're watching this and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so afraid to do this, and this is the reason, and you're clear about what it is, I'd love to hear that. And then Terry, if you have other fears that come up for you, but it seems to me that most of them have to do with our fear about what others are going to think, right? That's the one that comes up for me the most, whether it's, people will judge me, or people will, it's not going to be good enough. All of the fears typically come from a fear of wanting to fit, desire to fit in, a desire to be enough, a desire to, for others to see, and give some sort of positive feedback and not negative feedback, right?
Well, what comes up for me right there is, it's not even what they think. What's underneath that is the true limiting belief of, I just want to be loved and liked and accepted. And it, on top of that, it looks like people pleasing and all these things, but underneath that is your core want, your core belief that if you think you're not lovable and you do something that is like, ooh, that's not accepted, then you're literally afraid that you're going to be rejected and unloved and unwanted, and that you're not going to be saved. And your brain determines, when you're a child, the perspective, and it's a child's perspective, the old neural pathway. So we fight that as we grow up until it no longer serves us. Then we get to create a new neural pathway that actually does serve us. And speaking to your tiger, your brain doesn't know the difference. Whether it's fear is fear is fear. Your brain doesn't rationalize. It doesn't logically decide and emotionally decide. It's fear. It's there to protect you. And it's a tiger. It's a car coming at you. It is the boy walking up to you that is causing that fear. So it's the emotion that comes up. And all of the chemicals, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all the fear chemicals and responses in your body occur, whether it's a tiger or that cute boy that you're so shy of, whatever that case may be.
Yeah. Or chasing your dreams, singing in front of everybody, and that all those chemicals causing your muscles to jump, right? It's all the same.
And designing the mindset around how you want to respond to the body reaction, because you can catch it and you can choose your response. You can choose the mindset design and then follow that pattern. It's a beautiful, beautiful blueprint.
Yeah. And I love that, this book is so great. And we read a lot of amazing books in book club and, throughout our lives, because it's, we love the personal development and the growth. And all of the information that we can take in can only go so far in creating a different life for us. It is only in the practice. It is only in the stepping into the fear, doing it anyway, whatever it is, that we begin to build a new muscle. And I know even the neurological, pathways, you talk a lot about that in your work, healing a lot of the old ones, but even then still practicing to create and strengthen new ones that are actually designed around and lead us towards a designed life.
Absolutely. I love this topic. It can go all over the place, and it can really lead you into the vision that you create. And getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is a powerful place to be. People spend so much time avoiding being uncomfortable. That's where the magic is, outside of the box, as they say. And when you are uncomfortable, when you are afraid, trust that if you've chosen that path and you're uncomfortable and afraid, do it anyway. Just do it. Love Nike. Just do it. Because that is where you belong, and it won't be uncomfortable forever.
Yeah. And, something we talk about a lot here, and I think it's really important for this topic as well, is, surrounding ourselves with people who can hold us in that space. Because, getting out there and being uncomfortable is one thing. Getting out there and being uncomfortable without a support net, a support system, somebody that's like, at least that one person, that one good friend. I like to have a whole tribe, I think a tribe is a great way to do it, but having that support system and getting out there and being vulnerable and doing things afraid feels a little less uncomfortable when you got your girls.
Oh
your
my
people
God.
at your back.
Oh my God. It is all the difference in the world. We can't do big things alone at all. And we could go fast for a little while, but we can't go far. And you being my person, and you being that holding me high at one point, we won't go into the details, but doing something that was so, in my mind, the scariest thing in the world. Having you to hold me high, for example, as the person that one of the people I support myself with, surround myself with, it was just beautiful being walked through that. And I did it. But beforehand, the story I had up in my head melted me. It was crushing until someone saw me. Oh yeah, you got this. So yeah,
people that know who we are, people that know our core, our strengths, our all of our light, and will hold that space for us. So important. And designing the life that we want, especially if you're creating something big in your life. If you're creating something like really big in your life, it is so important that you surround yourselves with people that see you, like really see you.
It's a big deal. Surround yourself with people that hold you high, that see you for who you really are, see through the good and the bad, and can walk the path with you. And the shift, that's another, the more you mindset shift and design yourself, the more the people in your life will shift as well. You will manifest the tribe that holds you high, that is on that path. And it's just an up level. It's
Yeah.
up level.
And let's also speak into, the other people in our lives, because having the tribe is super important. And there are people in our lives that won't walk the path with us, won't see us that way. In other words, when we are designing our mindset and we are designing our life, we're designing something that is different than a way we've shown up before, how we have expressed ourselves in the world. And I was just listening to this morning, one of my favorite people to listen to on business is Alex Hormozy. He was talking about how he doesn't go home for the holidays, which I do. I don't agree with that part, but he said the reason is people will operate and respond to him as if he is the person that he was 10 years ago. And
Right.
especially as entrepreneurs, people who are designing their lifestyle, people who are growing, we're not the same person from day to day, much less from year to year. And so being able to stand in those spaces with people who don't understand that the person that they knew a year ago, 2 years ago, is not the person standing in front of them today, and being able to show up in those spaces whole and designed the way that life designed, personality designed, the way that you want to design, sometimes can create incongruencies. And I'll give a very specific example, because this one is a moment that was like, oh, it just became super clear to me. I didn't grow up in a house where we danced, so dancing was not our thing. And I remember my husband saying to me something like, you can't dance, one time. And I looked at him and said, don't say that about me, because when you say that, you put me in a box as if that is where I will always be. And that is not true. It's not okay for you to hold me in that box. And I need you to, because you're my person, I need you to be like the person that doesn't put a box around me.
Yeah.
I have since been able to learn to dance well, get, people saying, oh my gosh, you're an amazing dancer. So I know that I've grown past that space. But if I had not spoken up about the way I was being held, because sometimes we have to actually communicate, hey, it's not okay to speak to me that way, right? To be able to design and grow.
Yeah, what was coming up for me when you were sharing that story is, and I love that story. Also, you've described that story as, please don't tether me to my past. Also, hold me to that past. If there's someone in your life from your past, or that you've not spoken to for a while, and they knew you when, and now you're this person, if they're worth the effort, you do get to communicate and bring them into your world, into your tribe. And maybe you are the permission for them to also, break through their fear and their desire to have a new vision. And they don't think that they can. That's another thing. We get to leak, we get to speak into what we do.
Yeah, I love that. We get to leak and speak into what we do. Yeah. And our future, and to bringing others with us. Absolutely. All right, we are complete for today. We're going to let you two go. So design your lives, everyone, and we will see you here tomorrow morning.